What's going on? Welcome to the Build series here live in New York City. I'm Kevin Kenny, and right to my side, you can't see him just yet, but our guests today have 9 top 10 hits in their home of Australia. They're also the first ever Australian act to sell 1 million digital downloads here stateside. Please join me in welcoming the Veronicas to Build. I love that stat. That is such a fun stat.
I love stats when they sound like that. I was like, I didn't even realize we'd had 9 top 10 singles. I was looking at
Can
just
you name
like,
them
dang,
all?
we
It's a real
badass.
question.
No.
No.
We can't.
Well, thanks so much for being here, guys. I don't think you've ever been on Build before, if I'm not mistaken, here.
No.
Do you remember the first time you were ever in New York City, though, when the whole Veronicas thing was going on?
We came to New
15
York
years
City.
ago.
Yeah, 15 years ago. We actually signed our record deal out of New York City.
Really?
To a label called Sire Records that was under Warner Brothers at the time.
Yeah,
Seymour Stein, who had signed Madonna, the Ramones, just like the most iconic people in music.
How do you celebrate 15 years ago after you inked the deal? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, what would have we done? I mean, probably
High-fived
Yeah,
and
high-fived and ate some Oreos
had a beer.
or something.
Yeah.
I would have been super excited
Simpler
about being in
times.
America. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, there's so much to talk to you guys about, whether it's congratulations on the MTV reality show that's coming out, this journey that you guys have been on, of course, their new music that we're excited to chat about.
Thank you.
I guess a great starting point, though, is something you talk about in the trailer for that reality show. And it's really just this rough patch you guys went through recently as sisters. What was that like? We don't have to really harp on it because there's so much positive things to talk about. But what was that whole experience like for you guys?
I was going to say constantly we're going through rough patches as sisters. We just had a massive fight this morning because I'd forgotten the black latex bodysuits for our show tomorrow for Pride in Chicago.
You can't do that.
So, these things just come up. But
They're really important things in life.
We do have, it's an interesting dynamic being in a band and we're twin sisters. And the fact that, we've been doing this for 15 years now. I guess it is it's kind of a crazy dynamic, but at the same time, it's what makes the Veronicas the Veronicas. It's the fact that we're both such passionate but, different souls, and we will fight for, creativity and what we think is right in the room. So it really is, the mix of both of us, that intrinsic connection we have, that bond as sisters that makes our sound. So,
That's awesome. Well, if you don't mind me asking, who initiated the kind of coming of back together?
So when Lisa and I write for the Veronicas, we like to do inspired writing. So that means we have to have a lot we want to write about. So Lisa and I are constantly in the studio. So regardless of whether we're releasing music as the Veronicas, we're in the studio creating music most of the time independently and together. So we never stopped creating music. A lot of people are like, oh, you're not in the public eye, you've stopped creating music.
Yeah.
But we never stopped creating music. We are songwriters first and foremost. And we did take some time. There were things going on in our personal lives that we weren't on the same page at the time. And I guess when those things were dealt with personally, the way that we bond together as sisters and as family and best friends is through music.
That's
so
awesome.
we came back together to create this album.
Yeah. It's very exciting. You talk about working as songwriters, maybe for other artists, maybe independently, and then, of course, as the Veronicas. When does a concept become clear to you guys that this is a Veronica song that we're working on and maybe not for something else?
When it's really personal, when there's a vulnerability to it that connects with the two of us, that's really the intrinsic DNA of what connects with the two of us. And
I think it's a feeling right here that hits that we just know that that's going to make the record.
Almost like an ESP? Not to be
Sure.
corny, but
That's
you know
a
what I mean?
little different, but yeah.
But a lot, it's funny, a lot of siblings in rock bands talk about that, this unspoken thing, but maybe even
Absolutely,
from
yeah.
a songwriting standpoint.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and we both approach songwriting quite differently. I'm very much melody based, so I'll hear a melody in my head first, and then from that I'll hear lyrics come second, whereas Jess goes in with a lyrical idea. So it's interesting because we have completely different approaches.
Yeah, that's perfect though. You know what I
is
mean?
perfect.
Talk about both sides of the equation there. That's amazing. So just take me back really briefly for your longtime fans watching to that time when you guys moved to Los Angeles. I guess you actually literally signed the deal in New York. But, I guess when I think back to you guys, I first became aware of you guys when Untouched was just everywhere. It was inescapable almost in my recollection, right? What was the moment, though, that you two looked at each other and you go, whoa, this is really happening stateside for us? Were there any pinch me moments along the way?
exactly like that. When we wrote Untouched, we felt like it was a special song. And at that time, it was difficult. We really believed in the entire record, the Hook Me Up record that we made. And we had the head of Warner Brothers tell us that he didn't think there was a single hit on the record and he wasn't going to release it.
And he said that
So-
after hearing Untouched.
He said that after we created the album. Yes, he heard Untouched, he heard Hook Me Up, like songs that have gone on to become the DNA of who we are as the Veronicas and be big songs. And it was really our management and us who just forged through that. And we were like, no, we believe in this record. People, it was so different at the time. They didn't think they could get it played on radio. There was a lot of stuff there.
It was very much an electronic based record, and at the time, radio was being dominated by guitars, so it was quite ahead of its time in that sense. Where you just weren't hearing that stuff in the mainstream.
Not at all.
It was about almost a year after we released that song that it got picked up by Z100 here in New York. And it won out, like they did like a 9 at 9, and it won out against every song for almost 3 months straight, including Beyonce. And it kept getting voted as the song. And it was from there, then other radio stations started adding it, and then it got played like the final song on Victoria's Secret, like 2009 show.
Career highlight.
And just like all these crazy things started happening with that song in particular, and then the million downloads for the first Aussie artist for that to happen. So it was moments like that where it was like this is cool. This is so cool because we really believed in something, and even when someone who was in a very powerful position said no, we're not even going to release it, we ourselves knew that if we just kept working it, that our fans would connect with it and that there was something special about it.
Absolutely.
So it really goes to show, like, believe in yourself as an artist because you never know. You just don't.
You can never go against your gut, right? Wouldn't you attest to that? You got to listen to yourself. It's where a lot of people lose their way, unfortunately, right? They listen to everybody else in the room.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the problem. I think we're so lucky that we've had each other. So we've always had that support system. Lucky, sometimes unlucky, depending on how you look at it. But today it's lucky, that we do have each other's support and each other's voices to help center around. And we've never compromised as far as that's concerned. Yeah.
Is credit something you guys think about? Like, Lisa, you make a great point about how ahead of your time that was sonically. Like, when I think back to that, no one really sounded like you guys. Of course, you fast forward a couple years, everybody sounds like Untouched, right, on pop radio. But in 2007, no, for real, though, like, no one's really doing that style of music. And I remember that just cut through immediately to my ears even back then. Do you think you get the credit, though, for being sort of so forward-thinking at that time?
Jess?
Well, okay, so
Jess has got opinions about this.
David Lynch had this great quote where he was like, as far as creativity goes, it's about the journey and the creation of whatever your art is. The results of that are none of your business. So what happens after that? It really is none of your business. It's like you've given that then to the world. It's about the creation. Otherwise, if you're constantly focused on like, is this going to do what I want it to do or need it to do, you can get so sucked into that and it can create a lot of unhealthy habits or addictions in your mind, or you start creating from a place of needing that instead of the real creativity. So
absolutely, the reason we started music was for our love of music. Right. It wasn't to be famous celebrities or have #1 songs. We knew we wanted to tour the world.
As far as our integrity, we love to be ahead of the game and we love to be able to experiment as much as possible. And as far as the credit for us paving that way, that's not for us to comment on.
Totally. Yeah. That's awesome, though, because it's really the difference of speaking from your heart or doing things for a reaction, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's where you
Beautifully
get away from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Well, what's funny, though? We're talking about this like idea of credit, right? Like maybe you're getting that credit now because 12 years later, I've heard that Untouched is the unofficial anthem of Pride.
I love that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I really laughed at that. That really brought me lots of joy. Yes, well, it's quite funny because I started seeing on Twitter specifically for the last probably year now, people be like, oh my God, Untouched, like I came out to this song, or this song, something about this song like was a part of a lot of LGBT youth's journeys. And so I was thinking about it because I was like, what is it about Untouched? What is it about that song in particular, or the music that we create that resonates so much with the LGBT community? And beyond, I identify LGBT. So apart from even my own storytelling through my music, like what is it sonically about it? And growing up, we grew up very, very heavily influenced by, queer culture and the music that was directly being influenced and loved by LGBT youth and people everywhere. So I think that growing up, we've just been so heavily influenced by that culture, by that community, and by the music that has helped everybody, that we have now gone on to create music that sort of reflects that.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
It's almost like paying it forward in a way, no?
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Absolutely.
That's cool. You talk about these influences. Who have influenced you guys when you look back? You think about people that you're listening to as young people growing up that have informed your music.
We had so many influences. It's quite an eclectic mix of music and genres and artists. I mean, just in our household, our dad played guitar. He was in a band. So he was always bringing music into the household. And
a lot of Australian rock and roll,
loved
Skyhooks,
Aussie rock,
Rose
yeah.
Tattoo, NXS,
AC/DC, Kylie Minogue.
Kylie Minogue.
Yeah.
You know,
and then obviously musical theatre on the other spectrum. We absolutely love like everything Andrew Lloyd Webber. Obviously we're in the city for it. How excellent.
I think that's where we get the drama from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of drama, that's a nice segue, Lisa. Let's talk about this MTV reality show. I saw like one clip and you guys are arguing in the back of a SUV, it looks like. Right. Is that par for the course?
They'd come out with this for 2 hours and
that was the first day of filming.
That was the first day
and
of
it was
filming.
Actually being filmed under the sort of idea that it was going to be just a little like hour docuseries. Okay. And then the next day they were like, we want a whole series, like a 6.
Like, this is very good.
Yeah. We were like, all right, you guys are along for the ride. But, everyone that's here knows we're incredibly uncensored. We don't know how not to be ourselves. And I think being in music so young, since the age of 19, we were used to being around so many cameras and doing these kind of interviews, and we're incredibly comfortable in front of a camera. We completely forget it's there. So you get all of us, absolutely, in this show.
Who was more apprehensive about doing the show?
Surprisingly, I feel like Jess. But maybe you've got, I don't know.
I don't really feel like I was apprehensive. I just, there's, I'm quite actually, despite
we're both
what it
exhibitionists,
seems,
let's be real.
Despite what it seems,
we were both super
I'm actually
into
quite
it.
a private person. I know it would probably be shocking to the fans that know us because I'm
the fans. That's shocking for me to hear.
Because I can be I'm very extroverted on stage, but off stage I'm quite introverted.
Well, because you probably leave it all on stage, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it's like yes, exactly, like an alter ego.
Yeah.
So on stage, it's like I get to put all of this somewhere, and then when I'm off stage, I'm very quiet, and I'm a nana, and I'm in bed by 8 p.m. And I said to Lisa, I was like, literally, what are they gonna get? There's nothing interesting that happens.
We kind of text
ever.
each other from our rooms, like with our tea, and we're in bed. And Jess is like, what are they going to be filming this? There's not enough drama in our lives. And it's like, since she said that, it's been
cursed.
You jinxed it.
I've been cursed since saying that.
When you were talking to the producers of the show, is there anything that was off limits? Any ground rules where like you can't film here, you can't cover this?
No.
Wow.
If we're going to sign up for a reality TV show, we want our fans to see us.
Totally.
We want them to see every aspect of our life, the good times and the hard times. And, there's a lot that goes on personally and behind the scenes that, no one really knows about. Yeah.
And it's cool that it's coming out like while the music's coming out, because I'm sure this is going to give such great context to the songs we hear on the album eventually, which is cool.
Absolutely.
Right? Think of Me is out right now, right?
Yes. It is.
So talk to me about the creative process of that song.
So we wrote that really early on in the process of this next album, and it was coming off the back of quite a difficult time for me. Lise was about to get married, and I'd just come out
Very
of
difficult for Jess to let
very
me go.
difficult for me as well. No, not really. I was like, good,
We think we're
finally,
comedians, but no one else is laughing. Have you noticed that?
Someone else can be responsible.
I think they're just in awe of you, honestly.
They're like, we're just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got into the studio and we just started writing, and I'm very blessed to, like, Lisa's my obviously main collaborator in writing and in all things music. So I'm just very lucky to be encouraged to be able to put my feelings somewhere, and we always have done that with all of our records. we just write and write and write. Even if these songs aren't going to make the album, it's just sometimes you just need to write certain things out.
Yeah.
So this was just one of those songs from that particular time. I was going through something and I needed to put feelings somewhere. And some of the songs are really sad and depressing and, you know, and then some of them are kind of a bit comedic.
I'm Jessie's biggest fan, and
she loves to speak over me. It's her favorite.
well, I got to get a word in somewhere, girlfriend. Let's be real. If I don't speak over you, I don't speak at all. Just waiting for her to take a breath. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to say I'm Jess's biggest fan, so it's one of those things where I had to watch my sister go through a really hard time, and I felt very powerless. And you know, at the back end of that, when we reunited again, I really felt like she's such an empowering woman to so many people, and I wanted her to have that feeling where she could put her voice again somewhere where she could feel empowered. Correct. And so, you know, that was my way of supporting her. It makes me feel a bit emotional, but that to me was like, of course I was going to be there to support her and love her through that. And I know music is such a therapeutic experience for me and for her. So I knew that would be a very healing experience we could have together.
That's awesome. And I know you guys already told us that you don't care about the validation or the response, but it is off to a pretty hot start. Can we get a round of applause for about 2 million views on the video so far? I mean, that must just be awesome for you guys. You got another single drop in July, Life of the Party?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then there's going to be a feature on that, a rap feature on that.
Yes, that's right.
All Day?
Yeah,
All Day.
a friend of ours
Nice.
named All Day.
Amazing, an amazing Australian artist.
And then I've heard that's going to be what the album's going to be like a little bit in terms of collaboration. It's a very collaborative, heavy album.
Yes, it is. Yeah, over half the record is collaborations.
Okay. Anybody we can talk about? Anyone you can tease?
Oh, there's another guy, an American actually. His name's Rabel.
Okay.
And he's just done the newest song with Pink.
Okay.
He's amazing.
You said Rabel?
Rabel.
It's like with a W? It's with a W. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the guy with the
Rabel with
yeah,
the
all right.
W.
Heard
Cool,
of
cool.
him.
He's amazing. So
Right
we have
on.
a song with him on this
Awesome.
record as well. And we're super proud of it. It's awesome.
That's awesome. We're going to kick it over to the audience in just a second, but I wanted to ask about the Pride events. Because you guys have been to what? Orlando, LA,
Chicago
Chicago.
tomorrow night, and
Okay.
then New York.
Wow. How have those been so far?
Wild.
Absolutely.
Incredible.
There's so much, like the feeling is indescribable. It's just like, what would you say? I honestly can't even think of a word. It's just electric. Everybody is so having the best time, the time of their lives.
So
truly.
loving too. We were saying we did a gig the other night and we got off stage. I love you were talking about this, and we were just like, I don't think we've ever felt more loved in our lives. It's just something about the crowd. It's
the community. They
community.
rally around the people that they love, and that's how the LGBT community works. Is they rally around everyone, and they lift you up. They're just there to lift you up, and it's overwhelming. It's just wonderful.
That's awesome. It translates. You can actually feel it, right?
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Let's get to the first question from a fan. It'll come from behind me over here.
Oh, cute. Wait, are we doing this in the audio, like fan questions?
Yeah, she's going to literally ask you a question right now.
Oh, cute.
Hi guys.
Hey, babe.
So I was wondering, when you guys aren't creating music together, what's something else fun you guys like to do?
Well, we've just bought a house actually. So currently we are looking at all of our sort of renovation ideas.
We're going to be renovating.
Yeah. So we're like learning skills.
The two of us renovating this house. It's going to be hilarious.
But we're also, I mean, we do live separately.
We love to cook. We love
to
to
cook.
vintage shop.
I'm super passionate about self-sustainability and growing your own food. So I have like a little veggie patch in LA, chickens and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome.
Thank
Great
you.
question. We're going to do the audience question thing again.
Cool.
Here's another one.
That's so sweet.
Hi.
Hey, babe.
I was wondering, what's you guys' favorite song to perform live and why?
Favorite song? It will sometimes change depending on the setup. There's a song of ours called Mother Mother that's actually a Tracy Bonham cover that I love to sing, but that's because I get to scream like crazy in it, and it's very therapeutic.
I love a song called Line of Fire, which is kind of one that I don't know if a lot of you know, but it was from the last record.
Thank you.
And we never perform it, so maybe that's why it's fun. I'm not sure.
Awesome. Well, speaking of performance, another nice segue there. You guys are going to be nice enough. You're going to perform how many songs? 3 songs?
23.
3 songs right here live for us on Bill. So that's coming up next with the Veronicas. Guys, one more time for Jess and Lisa. Thank you so much.
Thank you.